Hi, welcome to Quilted Cactus. Today's tutorial is on the Alice wristlet. This is a pattern, a new pattern. It's by Bloom and Needle. She's formerly known as Hallel. I did, just to familiarize yourself with who the designer is, I did an Everly as well as the Leora of her patterns. It's a really cute wristlet. The wristlet is a companion to the Alice shoulder bag that will be releasing mid-March. So I am designing my wristlet to match the shoulder bag, so it will be in conjunction with that. For this particular tutorial, the materials that I'm using, this is called Neutral Floral. This is a Tulip Bee signature smooth print. You'll need the design that I'm making for the tutorial. It's the classic design. Her pattern offers a classic and a crystal design. The crystal, I did do a live on the crystal, so you will be able to see the construction of how I put together the exterior of that in my live if you're just looking for the exterior. And then if you want the more detailed look, you can watch this video for the details. So you'll need, for the classic, you'll need one top part of your wristlet. You'll also need the lower portion, which is piece B, exterior front, and this again classic size. This is also Tulip Bee. It is her Faux Real collection, and this is called Teddy. It's a really pretty color. You'll also need the back piece, and then you will need to cut out the window. Just for knowledge, this is, if you're wanting to just do the window, you can just cut with a non-frame material. This is perfect for something like that. If you use a cotton or a fraying material, you will want to not cut out the hole like this. You will want to line around your hole. You would preferably do it on the back side, and then just draw a line and then cut through the center of the rectangle. And then when you get to the corners, before you get about a 1/4 inch from the corner, you would stop and then just do a little V type of thing, and then fold it out and then press it. If you're using cotton material, you would do that for both ends. That will give you a finished look, so you're not fraying. Preferably I would use a vinyl. You could do something lightweight. You don't have to do anything. This is a little thicker of a vinyl. I love the vinyl. You will also need stabilizer for your exterior pieces. Make sure when you cut the stabilizer for the back piece, the stabilizer also gives you a window to cut out. For obvious reasons, this is where your zipper is going to be, and it's large enough that your zipper tape will fit nicely and it won't stick out. Just be careful when you put your stabilizer on that it's even. I didn't do very good on this one. My other one I did much better, but you still should be able to. This is thin enough that I'll be able to get my zipper tape in there and then it will be fine. But make sure when you do yours that you are equal measurements away from the slot to place your stabilizer. Okay. And also you want your wrist strap. Now in this tutorial, I will do my wrist strap just a little different than she does in her tutorial. My way is going to cut out a little bit of the bulk. You'll need your two lining pieces, as well as two pieces for your zipper pocket. It does have an exterior zipper pocket, as well as the lining for the zipper pocket. And then you will need something for your card slots, because this does have a card slot for the lining or the interior of the bag as a card slot, as well as a slip pocket. So you'll need that for your interior as well. Those are all the pieces. Oh, you'll need 2 zipper end pieces, and then 1 rectangle ring for your connector piece for your wristlet, your little D-ring to make it your wristlet. Those are all the pieces besides your zipper. You'll need 2 pieces of zipper tape, as well as a D-ring and of course, 2 zipper pulls, a D-ring, and a swivel hook for your wristlet. We're going to go ahead and get started on the exterior, and then we will do the attach the top band to your A piece to your B piece. And then we will go and do the wristlet strap. Okay, just one moment here. So you're going to take piece A and piece B, and you're going to put at the top of piece B, you're going to take piece A and put it right sides together. Make sure the wider end is being placed to the top part of your piece B. You want the more narrow end to be the top of your piece. So put those right sides together, and then you're going to stitch it at the seam allowance that she gives you. Just line them up. You can mark your centers and if you want to make sure your band is perfectly placed, you can always mark your centers and place your band that way. All right, so my band is placed right sides together. Again, the wider end is what is matched up to the top of piece B. I didn't line that up very well. Give me a quick second. There we go. So I'm going to stitch this at the seam allowance that she gives you. I think, yeah, it's good. All right. Back stitch. Always back stitch at the beginning of the end. And then once you get that completed, you're going to open up your seams like that. Or butterfly, I guess is another word. Your seams. And then you're going to top stitch at above and below the seam on your piece. My top stitch length that I use is a 5 on my machine. I do so on an industrial, and it is a Juki 1541S is what I sew. So this is a 5 is what I use. The thread that I'm using is the caramel. It is a polyester blend thread, and it is from Saya Swag Bags. I'm just top stitching. Okay, then once I get done top stitching, we will put this piece aside and work on the strap. Okay, so there is the front of our piece here. Isn't that's really, really pretty. All right, so I'm going to grab my crossbody strap, or my wristlet strap, and we'll get started on this. Be just one moment, please. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and work on the wristlet strap. Now I'm doing this a little different than she has in her pattern because this will cut out some of the bulk that you have. And on this version, you will actually need to use a non-frame material as well for this particular version. In the pattern, she has you mark the center and then fold to the center. I'm going to do just a 3-fold on this. My tape's already there for the center, but it'll be okay. The way I'm going to do it is you can either make this a little skinnier to have a skinnier strap where you would just cut it at 2, I believe it's 2 and 2.5 or 2 1/4 to have a 3/4 inch strap. I cannot remember, and I apologize, but this is 3 inches wide, so we're just going to have a 1 inch a 1 inch wristlet strap. So what I did is I went in 1 inch and made a line for 1 inch. Again, this is for the way I'm going to do it. So I got a 1 inch line here. I'm going to go ahead and remove my backing from my double-sided tape. And I'm going to take this side, the wider side with the 2 inches here. I'm going to fold this long edge up to that line right there, that 1 inch line. And I'm going to actually go on the line itself not below it or above it. I'm going to actually go right on the line. What that does is when I fold the other piece over, it'll keep it from going past this edge here that I'm folding away from. Okay, so we're going to fold it down like that. So we've got one that's folded in here. So we've got a two, now it's 2 inches wide. So then I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to fold it over this way. So when I fold this over, you'll be very careful as you do it and make sure that you have just a little bit like right here, so this raw edge doesn't stick out from this piece. So it's not, looks nice and finished this side. And I'm just going to go ahead and fold this over, and then I'm just going to go ahead and clip this together like that rather than using the tape. I don't have to use the tape on this side. The other, if you do it on the inside first, it helps stabilize it more. So when you do it on this side, you're okay with it not trying to unfold, because especially with the vinyl. So I'm going to go ahead and put some clips here. Hold this shut. Make sure I get clips that have a better end. There we go. You can put as many clips in there as you want. I'm going to go ahead and do a few extra. It helps to hold it better, and it keeps it from wanting to slip. Let's see. There we go. Just try to be as consistent as you can as far as lining it up. And again, folding it onto the line that I drew keeps you from wanting to try to go past that folded edge. All right. All right, so this is what we got here. See how it's like really close, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, like that. And then when you look on the other side, it looks really nice and finished. Because what we're going to do is we're going to fold this like that. So this part will be on the inside, and you'll mainly see this part. So what we're going to do is we're going to top stitch, and it's going to be 1/8 of an inch away from the folded edge, but I'm going to sew it this the raw edge that I have here at the bottom on my machine. It's going to be against my plate of my machine, and I'm going to stitch from here, from this side, as my top stitching. Again, 1/8 of an inch away from this edge, and that will make sure it catches this little folded raw edge here. Oops, my thread. I'm about to pull my thread out of the needle. There we go. All right, so I'm going to hold my threads. I am going to back stitch. Let me make sure I get it the right direction here. All right. Let me get my back. And I'm going to, again, I get 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to hold my threads, and I am going to do a back stitch at the beginning of the end. Just one back stitch. And then just go ahead and just be really consistent in your stitching. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep on. I'm not going to stop and back stitch here. I'm going to keep going on until I get to the other side. I'm going to make half of a stitch, I guess you could say, here. And then turn. And then I'm just going to keep going to keep a consistent non-cutting thread here. If you have to hand crank, just to make sure you keep your stitches or your seam straight, then you can do that. And I'm just going back up the other side. And then when I get to the top, I am going to do the exact same thing. Turn it, and then meet the other side. That way you're only doing any kind of back stitching at the beginning of the end, and your whole piece is fluent in stitching. I'm going to make sure I stop here at the top, because this is raw, we're not going to see, and this is going to be visible. You want to keep that where your stitching meets, here, like that. Okay, I'm just going to run the lighter over the edges just to make sure there's no frays here. I'm making sure too, like there's just a tiniest little bit peeking out. What I'm going to do on that is I'm just going to clean that up to make sure that looks finished, nice and smooth. That side looks good. So this is going to be the strap. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your swivel hook, which of course I have the wrong size swivel hook, but you're going to take your swivel hook, put it over the strap like this. All right, pretend like I'm putting the swivel hook. I apologize, I had the wrong size, grabbed the wrong size swivel hook. So you're going to take your swivel hook, put it on to where the clasp part is on the finished size, the side that doesn't have that raw edge. You're going to put your swivel hook out that way. And then you're going to take this piece, come up to, take the swivel hook, have the swivel hook about, let me go grab one real quick. Sorry about that. It would be better and easier if I show you with the swivel hook on it. Let me grab one. I got one right here. Take me 2 seconds. Got it. All right, let's do this the right way. Again, you can make a skinnier strap. You just have to make adjustments accordingly to the strap itself if you're going to do it this way. So I've got my strap here. Again, this is a 1-inch strap or 1-inch swivel hook. Place it on this strap like that. You want to find actually the nicest side. This is the side I started and stopped. This is the side I'm going to hide, because this is my finished side where I went all the way around without starting and stopping. So I'm taking this side. I'm going to go down approximately 1 inch to 1.25 inches from here with your swivel hook, about 1 inch to 1.25 inches from the edge. Let me get my ruler and make sure where I'm at. That's about 1.5 inches where I'm at. I'm going to go about 1.25 inches. There we go. I'm at 1.25 inches right here. So I'm going to place my swivel. I'm going to leave it right there at the 1.25 inches. I'm going to take this into the strap. Again, this is where I started and stopped. I'm going to hide that inside. So I'm going to place it right up against the swivel hook like that. Okay, just hold on to it. You can clip it or hold on to it. Keep your swivel hook there. Fold this piece over like that. Make sure you can just pull it up just a little bit so your swivel hook should be resting on top of your other strap, because when you fold it over, of course, you're going to need that piece. So when you fold it over, you should end up with about 1 inch, a little more, but roughly 1 inch of this piece here, like a tail type of piece. Let me put a clip here. Let me get one of the big clips or plastic clip, and let me hold it and I'll show you. So this is what it's supposed to look like. When you fold this over like that, see how this piece is butted right up against the swivel hook? That's what you want it to look like. So you're going to place your swivel hook roughly 1 inch to 1.25 inches. I would actually go a full 1.25 inches, because that'll give you about 1 inch here once it's folded over. And that gives you a nice place to place your rivet. And then that's what you're going to do. Once you get all of this together, make sure, and this is what I just take your fingers, make sure these are flush on each side of the piece. And then you're going to place your rivet in the center. Now of course, in the center of 1 inch is a 1/2 of an inch in. That's kind of obvious. But I would go roughly a 1/2 inch up as well, because you have about an inch, a little over an inch here in your little tail piece that's hanging over. I'm going a 1/2 inch in and a 1/2 inch up. That gives you plenty of room for your rivet head to set nicely, where it's not right up against your swivel hook and it's not really, really close to your edge here on this piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm just taking my ruler, going in, and I'm just going to make a dot on my placement, and then I will go and put the rivet in off camera. So let me get a pen to make that mark. And I'll show you. I'll just kind of make it. This will get punched out, so you won't see that once I get the rivet in there. But I've marked it darker so you can see. So there's my rivet placement there. So I'll punch a hole in, put my rivet in, and then I'll have a nice wrist strap for my wristlet. All right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to move on to the lining. So we're going to set this piece aside as well as the back, or the exterior piece. We're going to move on to the slip pocket. Let's get my other pieces. Now the slip pocket, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to do that just a tad bit differently as well. In her pattern, I'll tell you what she does. In the pattern, she has you take the long side of the piece, fold it up so so you have your piece is folded in half like this. And then you're going right sides together, and then you're going to stitch at the seam allowance she gives you on both short edges, and you're going to turn it right side out. And then you're going to poke out your corners and make nice straight corners. Preferably, I have a problem making my corners look nice when I do it that way. So what I do is I go in and I mark on my piece double the size of what the seam allowance is. I'll multiply that by 2 and then go in and make a mark on my piece on the long edges of the piece. So I'm just going to make some marks. I'm making them light. This is a light piece, so I've got to be really careful as far as how I make my marks. That's always something to note. Be careful if you're marking any kind of piece of your bag. Make sure it's either not going to see through or it's not going to be permanent. Now I'm going to take some 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape, go down the long edges of the piece where I made my lines. I'll show you here in just a second. Okay, and again, this is just an 1/8 of an inch. I've got them down the long edges of my piece. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the double-sided tape and fold it up to that line like that. So I'll have a nice finished edge for my slip pocket. Like then this is just a different way of doing that rather than stitching them right sides together, turning it right side out, and trying to get those nice points to your pocket. All right. So I'm folding these into the line. Okay, then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. All right, so see, I've got my edges. It's hard to see with this color. This is Tulip Bee Smoothie Smooth. This is the beige. It's a very light color. It's kind of me like a warm white. It's kind of what it reminds me of. But you got your edges folded in like that. It gives you a folded edge. And then you're going to take and put it wrong sides together like this. I'm going to put, I'm going to baste stitch this shut. It's just a base stitch. And then I'll show you what I do next on this. Give me a quick second. Make sure you're lined up. I'm going to baste it shut. It just holds it for you for when you put your trim on and when you clean up your edges here. This is how I get nice, clean corners here. So when you take your piece, I'm going to grab my flathead screwdriver, and then I'm going to run it along the side like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and just kind of, I'm trying to show you here, kind of just straighten it out a little bit. Just give it a little, I don't mean to do that, but give it a little tug and then flatten it out. Then that will help make a nice clean edge. So when you look at your piece, it's a nice 90-degree turn. I can never achieve a good clean corner when I do the right, turning them right sides out. I've never been successful, and I've always disliked my pockets that way. So see, it gives you that nice edge. Okay, so now you're going to grab your slip pocket trim piece. Here it is. Well, if I can get a hold of it, your slip pocket trim piece. On your slip pocket trim piece, you're going to mark the center of the piece and then put double-sided tape on each edge of it. You don't have to, it just makes it a lot easier. So double-sided tape, it's just the 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to peel off just one side of it, lay it wrong side up, and then I'm going to take my slip pocket where I did the basting stitch here at the raw edges. I'm going to place it down below that line I drew, the midway line. I'm going to center it on the piece. I typically cut my trim piece a little bit longer, about 1 inch to 1.25 inches, half. It just depends on what piece I'm cutting from. In case it's there's like a little more, I might go a little more, but you want to go below the line. See how you can see the line there? That allows for the fold over of this piece, because you're always going to need that little extra. So when you fold it over, you always lose a little. So that's how, again, I just kind of got it centered because I got my piece. And then I am going to remove the backing off the double-sided tape on the other side of this. And then I'm going to fold this over. And I'm going to meet, if you have to adjust a little bit, go right ahead. But I'm going to fold this over to make sure this meets, so it's nice and straight. And I'm going to go down the whole piece like this. If you need to put a couple clips in to help hold it, the basting does help hold it some, but sometimes it still wants to flip up a little bit, especially if you have a thicker piece of vinyl that you're doing this. Which reminds me to say, if when you're doing a slip pocket trim, you always want to use a non-fraying material. Okay? So that's what you want. And then you're going to go ahead and stitch this on. You're going to go 1/8 of an inch up from the raw edge. I like to do a double stitch on my slip pocket trim pieces. I think it holds it better. So I'm going to go almost 1/8 of an inch, not quite 1/8 of an inch from the bottom up, and the same thing from the top down. That gives me a nice double stitching on my slip pocket trim piece, and it helps, I believe, helps it back. I'm going to start off of the trim, off of the pocket here. I'm going to start off of it, but when I get to the pocket, I am going to do one back stitch just to secure it. Again, I'm going to do it while it's on the actual pocket piece, but I'm going to start my stitching prior to getting to that. And I'm just going to go slow to make sure my stitching is as straight as I can get it. I want to get to the end. Before I go off of the pocket, I'm going to do it one back stitch. Well, that one went 2, but I'm going to sew off of it. So you can't really even see where I back stitched, but there's that. And then I'm going to go ahead and stitch the top as well, because like I say, I just like that little extra stitching on this piece here. All right, so there's my slip pocket trim. Now I'm just going to take my scissors and straighten up the edges, snip off those extras up against my slip pocket piece. Like that. So now it looks nice and uniform and straight. I think it's not too bad of a stitching job, but there we go. There's that. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and put, since this is a wristlet, and I'm going to put my main tag on the actual shoulder bag when I make the bag, I am going to put just a little name tag in here. And this is a good place to put that. I'm just going to slip it right in between here like that. If I can get it to line up right. My piece, there we go. Even if you've got cute tags you want to put in, this is a good place to put that. But I'm just going to put my name right here on the side because it's a wristlet. And I'll have my main tags on the main part. All right, I'm going to throw a little bit of double-sided tape. Because of this type of material, it is very smooth, hence the name Smoothie Smooth. That's why they named it that. It's just a cute little name they gave it. So it don't slip around. If you're using cotton or something, you may not need to do this, but you can. It's always a good way, unless you've got those Sew Tight magnets. I do not use those. I don't have those. So I will just be using double-sided tape as well as my eyes to hold this in place. Well, my eyes aren't going to hold it, but you know what I mean. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm marking the centers of my lining piece. I grabbed my lining piece. I've marked my centers of my lining piece. She gives you a measurement. Whoops, my little tag. Let me put a little bit of double-sided tape on my tag so it stays in place. It keeps wanting to slip out. Quick second here. All right, let me get this, and then I will put this in here so it stays still. All right. There we go. Just try to make sure it's straight, not crooked. There we go. So I've got it all marked. I'm going to mark the center of my slip pocket, and I typically just fold it, give it a crease. I need to clean up some threads. I'm sorry, I just noticed some threads. Some crazy threads here. So I'm just going to clean that up. That looks good on that side. All right. You should only do what I just did if you have a bonded poly thread or a poly base thread. When I seen people doing this, I was doing it with my cotton thread before I switched threads, and it's like, that doesn't work real well. Just saying. All right. I'm grabbing my longer ruler because I need to go in a certain measurement. Let me grab that real quick. Let's see, the slip pocket. There you go. Okay. I thought it was, but I wasn't sure. So I'm going in at the measurement she gives you. I'm marking my center so I know what my center is. Laying it down so my ruler is right on the edge so I know it's straight. Let me get my center back real quick because it's kind of left me. I'm going to remove the double-sided tape backing on just one side. Well, maybe. There we go. And then I'm just going to, like, where it's marked for the center, I'm just going to kind of go like that. Oops, you can't see. Sorry. Whoop, 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 whoop. There we go. I'm going to put it up against the ruler at the center point where it's folded. Like that. And then I'm going to relax the one side that I've got the tape off, but I'm going to keep my trim, the top of my trim piece with the ruler. Just hold on to your ruler, let it relax, set it down, keep it in place, and then I'm going to hold it in place, and then I'm going to remove the backing on the other side. Well, shoot. I can't get it off. It doesn't want to remove, so I'm going to have to double check my side here, my measurements, because it's slipping and sliding. There we go. Oh, it's not too far off. All right. So just push down on your pocket piece to make sure it's flat like that. And then I'm going to stitch this on 1/8 of an inch down all 3 sides. I'm going to make like a little Y. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch down from here, and then I'm going to go over at at an angle, about 45-degree-ish angle like this, and then I'm going to back stitch here, back to the down, and then I'm going to go on down my 1/8 of an inch. This just helps secure that pocket a little more, especially if you're going in and out of it, because this is a great pocket to put dollar bills, you know, bills in, not dollar bills, but bills in, because you're using this as a wristlet. I think this is an excellent wristlet to use as a wallet, given the pocket options that she has. And then that way, when you have your handbag, you can always just take this on the go, because you can always, this bag is great to put your cell phone in. This little wristlet is. All right, so I'm going down now that I did my little Y. I know my thread is a little contrasty to my lining, but I kind of like it. I kind of like this color of thread. I'm not going to lie. I love this color of thread. All right, so I'm going back up. Now, when I go back up, I'm going to go ahead and go up straight to the edge, back stitch 2 times till you're right below or right on the edge of that trim piece, and then do my little angle, and then just go up to the edge, and then backspace it, back stitch it to secure it. And then that will give you a nice little secure slip pocket. This is just the way I secure my pockets. I'm going to trim my threads flush to the pocket, but I'm going to keep these just a slight long, not like crazy long, but just like I don't know, a couple inches. And that just helps keeps it. If you don't want them flying away, you can always throw a little piece, like a little sliver of double-sided tape down to keep it from going crazy. It's just, I like this. It helps keep that thread from wanting to pull through. Okay, so there is your slip pocket and your lining. It's really cute. All right, so now we're going to move on to the card slots. That does take a quick minute to prepare the card slots. It's not difficult. It's actually one of the easiest ways that I have found that you can make a card slot. All right, so let me get my materials, and then we will get on to making the card slot. Okay, so now we're ready to make our card slots. So we're going to take our card slot piece, which is the long piece that you've got, and then what you're going to do is you're going to fold them wrong sides together, short side together like that. And then she does give you the measurement that the piece should be once you fold them together. She does advise you what the measurement should be, so you know what direction the fold is correct. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a couple clips on here, and then you're going to stitch this at the seam allowance that she gives you on the long edge here. Do not stitch on these short edges. You leave these short edges open. It'll be like a little it's going to be left open like that. So we're just going to stitch on the long edge. Or my stitch length. There we go. Make sure you back stitch when you start soft. Okay. Now this particular material that I'm using for my card slots in this wristlet, it is a canvas by My Handmade Space. They have a good weight. This is a little thinner. I don't know what the denier is, but it's a little thinner than the card slot material that I used for my crystal design that I did my live on. So just thought I'd let you know this is a little lighter. Okay, so now we're going to open your seams up. You can roll them open, like maybe get a roller, press it open. That way that'll help it lay better on this next section. So I'm just going to open them up, open them, butterfly them. I've heard it used a couple different ways. That just, like again, that just helps it to lay better when you turn it right side out. All right. Oops. I'll just close it right back up. All right. Now you're going to turn it right side out. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and fold this with the seam at the top. I'm going to go ahead and just put a couple clips. That's just going to hold my seam better. But since I rolled it, it does lay a little flatter. Besides, this canvas is a good material. It's almost like a waxed canvas almost. It holds its shape very well. All right, and then I'm just going to go down and just press it down like this so it's nice and flat and even. I'm going to top stitch both at the bottom, the folded edge here, the long edge, and I'm going to also top stitch at the top where it's stitched, where the seam is. Again, the 1/8 of an inch is their top stitch length. If you can increase your stitch length as well for your looks of your top stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done. I'm going to stitch the other side. I will put a link to the websites of the materials that I'm using, so you don't have to go looking for them. You can always just click on the link. I don't get anything for it. I just like to list what I use for my materials. Because if you're like me, if you like what you see, you may want to go ahead and check it out and see what else they have as well. Okay, so you've got the top, both sides, that's stitched, and that stitched as well. So there's your piece so far. Okay, and this will get turned in. Again, this, like I said, this is one of the easiest ways to do card slots. All right, so let me grab my lining and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my lining piece and my centers are marked for my lining piece. I have my card slot piece that we've got prepped and ready to go. And also I have a ruler, and I do have a 12.5-inch ruler because this is what I'm going to use in order to make sure this lines up appropriately on my lining piece. I'm going to turn my camera just a little bit so you can see more what I'm doing here. All right. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take this, and there she gives you some measurements to mark onto this onto your card slot piece. Okay, my apologies for that. There was some background noise and I had to pause for just a moment. Okay, so she gives you a measurement to mark on your piece. You're going to do it on each side. You're not going to go down. You're going to go in on one side, make a mark. And this is, I'm going to just do a little mark with my because this, I can see the mark. Like I say, this is really good. So I've got a score, and it's not really a score, but I kind of made a line there. And then I'm going to turn the card slot piece around and then go in that same measurement from the other side and then make a line as well. So you'll have 2 lines, and there will be a gap between the 2 lines. It's about a 1/2 inch gap is what you're looking for. Okay? So depending on which side you want to be the very top, because both of these ends will be the tops of your card slots. Okay? So you're going to get your lining piece, and then you're going to measure the lay your ruler down at the measurement she tells you for where you start your card slots. So I'm just going to lay it down and then make sure I have my center marked to where I know where this is going to go. This is going to be bigger than your lining piece, but you still want to make sure when you lay this down that it's centered the best you can, because it'll go over a little bit, but you just want to make sure it's a little, about equal, so that way you don't have part of your card slot off of the lining. So I'm going to lay this card slot down at the measurement. I'm going to push it up against my ruler. That will ensure it to be straight. And then I'm going to take my piece. You can clip it or something like that. I'm just going to hold on to it. I should be successful. Oh, nope, it slipped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it under my machine, make my lines, and then that way when I shift it to sew it, it's not going to go so far. Again, you should clip this to make sure it doesn't shift. All right, so I'm just going to put my ruler back down again. Make sure I am at the right measurement. Yes, okay. So I'm going to put this back up, trying to center it in there. And then I'm going to hold on to my piece and then go ahead and stitch this down. I'm going to decrease my stitch length, since this is getting stitched onto my lining. And then you're going to sew on the line that's closest to this edge. Okay, make sure it's the one that's closest to this edge that you're stitching on. Alright, just hold it. I do periodically check to make sure my piece doesn't slip. There we go. And just hold on to it. And then stitch all the way to the other end. Okay. And then what you do after you sew that line, then you're going to go and sew on the other line. Keeping your piece still open, you're going to go ahead and sew the other line just like you did the first one. Okay, so this is what your piece should look like right now. Both are sewn. Your piece is still open. And this is what it'll look like in the back. There's your lining piece, and this is your card slot. Then when you get done with that, you're going to take the bottom part, where the part that's pointing towards the bottom of your lining, you're going to take it, fold it up, and then when you fold it up, hold this lining piece down, and then just bring it up. Make it tight. Don't yank it to where it distorts your lining, but pull it up and then just give it a nice, good finger press like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to top stitch it down before I make any additional measurements. That way it's nice and flat when I make my measurements. And I'm going to top stitch, baste it down is the appropriate wording. But I'm going to baste it from the bottom up. That will keep my pockets from wanting to shift open. And you, again, like I said, they will be bigger than your piece. We'll trim that down here in just a minute. But I've got this basted. Just see, it's just a little 1/8 of an inch there. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Again, I'm just kind of holding this up so it lays nice and flat. Just make sure when you do this, remember that your piece is at an angle, your lining is. So you're going to want to base this down at an angle. Just don't go straight up or you will interfere in the looks of the lining. All right, so there's what it looks like. It's just basted on like that. I'm going to go ahead and clean up the sides. That way, when I measure over, I know I'm measuring accurately from the edge of my lining piece. Also, note, these will be sewn in your seams of your bag, of the wristlet. So just be mindful of what materials you pick for your card slots. Fabric, of course, if you do fabric, cotton, I should say, and you interface it with the 101 to give it some body or some firmness, make sure that is not in your seam allowances, especially if you sew on a domestic. Okay, so there is so far as my card slots. Now we're going to go ahead. She gives you measurements of what you need to go inward from each side, and then you're going to make a mark of that measurement. Let me go ahead and get that because I forgot what the measurement is. Okay, so let me find my measurement, and you're going to measure, that measurement is going to be from the edge of the top of your piece. Like here's the corner right here. You're going to go from this corner, because like I say, it's at an angle. You're going to go from this corner and measure do your measurements from that, going and like I say, you're going to go from each side and go in. So let me go ahead and make that mark. I am in 1, 2. Let me make sure. Before I make my mark, I'm just making sure that that is, okay, I'm going to do this. And I did this on my other one, and it's only because I just want to make sure when I put my I think I went in a little too much. So give me a quick second. Let me get my, and when you do this, you can always, I keep a little, get my scissors out of the way here before I hit the floor. I keep a little an old gift card in handy when I do this, and that is too far in. I think I looked at the measurement wrong. Okay. Yeah. I went in too far, so give me a quick second. That's it. All right, I'm just going to make use my So I'm making my lines, and I'm still, before I actually sew it, I'm going to go ahead and make sure my center pockets, my card fits right in between on those in that center pocket. I know it'll fit on the side. I just was, you just double check. So you're going to measure from one side in, the other side in, and then make your lines on both markings. And then what that does is that gives you a total of 6 card slots. So let me grab my threads, and then I'm going to start stitching. I'm going to stitch from the bottom up on both of my pockets. I will back stitch on each part where the card slot, the top of my card slots. That just ensures for me, it's inside your lining, so no one's going to really see your back stitching. And it just ensures, that constant tugging and pulling, it helps support that. And I did back stitch when I started stitching as well to lock my stitch in. Just be careful when you get to the edge. Don't overstitch, like go crazy overstitching, because then you'll see that, especially if you're using a lighter thread. Again, I'm keeping my back threads a little longer, just so if it gets tugged on, it's not going to pull through. I will also put a little bit of double-sided tape on that to help hold that in place as well. To me, that helps, keeps that thread from really wanting to be yanked through. All right, let's get the other one stitched on. There we go. Just wanted to bring my needle down so that way I can see where it's at. I'm holding on to my threads. Okay. All right. Let me just clean up my threads here on the front. I think we need to get another lighter, but we're going to work through this one right now. All right, so I left them along a little bit, and I'm just going to grab a little bit of my double-sided tape. And I'm just putting little pieces on here to hold this in place. Because my concern is if it starts getting pulled and tugged a few too many times, the threads could pull through. You also could tie them off. Pull them through to the back and tie them off. Even double stitch them and still pull them through and tie them off. That's always an option. But for the second time, that's what we're doing. All right, so that is your card slots. I mean, to me, that is one of the easiest ways of doing card slots. All right, so once our card slot's done, our slip pocket is done, we are going to move on to the back zipper pocket. Like that. Put this aside. Let's get this put aside. So we are going to take our back piece. That's the piece that we've got the window cut out. Now, I did mention at the beginning of the video, it's best to use a non-fraying piece for this. That way, all you got to do is cut out your window. You could top stitch the edge if you're concerned about the looks. To me, I think this looks just fine. I don't see any problems leaving this raw edged on here. No tops, no painting or anything is needed for this because of the type of vinyl. Again, if you are going to use like a cotton or a fraying material, you will, instead of cutting out the whole window, you will draw on your material on the back side of your piece, the rectangle, draw a line through the center, draw the line, and then about 1/4 of an inch away from these corners here. Let's get where you can see. Let's put my 1/4 inch away from here on each end of each rectangle. You're going to take your from this corner to 1/4 of an inch in, like that, at a diagonal, like making a point, a dart, if you will, on each corner. And then you'll just cut in the middle, and then you can just lay your seams open and then press them back, including the dart. Get all that pressed back, and that'll give you a finished edge. And then when you put your zipper on, it will hold back. When you top stitch your zipper on, it'll help hold that back. Otherwise, you can do what they call a facing piece, which you could get, you would cut it roughly about 1.5 inches to fit in this window. And then 1.5 inch piece by, you want to do roughly about 1.5 inches past your window here on the sides. Make sure it's nice, it'll cover that. And then do the same thing, cut the window out, and then sew it right sides together to your lining, and then feed it through. And then that will give you also a nice facing piece to make it look finished. But the easiest way, non-fraying, cut the hole out, you're good to go. It was a very, very rough way of doing that, of saying that. If you really want to know how to do interfacing on a window such as this, on anything, whether you do cotton, vinyl, or anything, you can go to Shambhala Bags. She has written instructions on her website. They're free for doing facing your pieces if you need to do that. All right, so we've got this. I'm going to grab my 2 zipper pocket pieces. It's these cute little rectangles here. I'm going to grab my zipper, and I'm going to, I think that's all I need at this point. Yes. Oh, and a zipper pull. That helps. And I've got this really cute double heart zipper pull. All right. So I'm going to get my zipper. She does give you the measurement of the zipper that you need. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Rough cut it. And if it's too long, I can always trim it down. I'll be a little more accurate on my top zipper. All right. If you're using zipper by the yard, you always singe the ends of your zipper. That helps it helps to eliminate fraying. All right. So then you're going to take and grab your 2 pieces. Now I use double-sided tape when I sew onto my zipper, especially when I'm using this bonded poly because it's so smooth. You can use clips. That is completely up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and put my double-sided tape down. I don't think, yeah, hold on. We have some tape issues. There we go. Every now and again, it happens. Not very often. Not as often as it happens on the hyper stick tape. I don't have the issues on the regular stick tape as they have on the hyper stick. So I don't use hyper stick. I just use wall wax, regular double-sided tape. And it works for me. I'm just putting double-sided tape at the top long edges of both of my zipper pocket lining pieces. Like that. Okay. And then I'm going to take my zipper. I've not installed my zipper pull yet. I will do that. Oh, I need to grab me another zipper pull. Different zipper pull. Sorry. I just realized I grabbed the wrong color. So you're going to take your zipper. I'm not going to put my pull on just yet. So I'm going to take my zipper, remove the backing on the double-sided tape on one of my lining pieces, place my zipper right side up. So it's going to be wrong side to right side of my zipper lining pocket. Center that up. I do wait to put my zipper on, zipper pull on until I get this done, because the little bulge that you get when you have on your zipper tape. So I like to wait to the last possible minute. Let me fix that. That fell a little bit. There we go. All right. So we're going to sew this on at the seam allowance that she gives you. Scissors. And then once you do that, you're going to flip your zipper tape up like this and fold the zipper tape piece down. So your zipper teeth are going to be facing up, and this is the back of your lining. This, if you look closely, this is the back of my lining, where this is the front of my lining here. So this is how it's going to look, because this is the inside of your pocket, and there's your zipper, where you're going to unzip it and reach down into the lining like that. You can press it, you can stitch it down, or you can use double-sided tape, whichever is best for you. If you're using cotton, you can just press it. Of course, just be careful with your teeth, the teeth of your zipper. If you're using a nylon zipper pull or nylon zipper teeth, I'm going to stitch this down. If you're worried about the double-sided tape causing problems on your needle, you can always just tape it down. It's fine with this particular machine. All right. So there, it's nice and flat. There's the inside of it. That's going to be the inside of my pocket. All right. So now I'm going to grab my other zipper pocket piece, remove the backing off of the double-sided tape for that one as well. Keep it right side up, and then I'm going to take my my zipper piece here, my zipper lining piece. I'm going to place my pieces, my lining pieces, right side together, but my backing of my zipper tape is going to be also to the right side of this, meaning you're going to see your zipper teeth. So line it up. Line the edge of your piece here to the top of your zipper tape. All right, and then you're going to go ahead, whoops, missed it a little bit. Let me fix that. All right, and then what you're going to do is you're going to sew this on at the seam allowance that she gives you. Alrighty. That's your zipper pocket piece. You are not going to close this off just yet because you will need to have it open when you sew it onto your backing. So now what you're going to do is you're going to grab some more double-sided tape. This is where I highly encourage you use double-sided tape. So that way when you place your zipper through the window of your piece, it sits still. You don't have problems with it shifting because it will most likely shift when you start to sew it. All right, I'm going to go grab me a zipper pull. I'll be right back. All right, I went ahead and got the zipper pull. So let's go ahead and get the zipper pull put on. All right. Zipper pull is on. So now I'm going to grab my back lining, my back exterior piece. I'm just going to remove the double-sided tape off the top of the zipper first, leaving the other one on, because I'm going to go ahead and center this up in my little window, making sure you've got an equal amount from side to side. You can, if you want, I do recommend it, mark your centers of your exterior piece. And you'll need to do it anyway, so we can go ahead and get our centers marked to help line it up better. Get the right scissors, and then we will be able to do a good snip. Okay. Now for this piece here, I'm just going to fold it and make a little line to where my center is. And I'm going to use the pocket piece as my marking for my center because my zipper tape is a little longer than the pocket. So I'm going to use it. I'm just going to make a little tiniest little mark here, and that will help me to line it up to the bag or to the center part of here. So that way it's equal distance on my window here. So I'm just going to use that as a guide. And then what you're going to do, whoops, keep that. I'm just going to kind of just shift it up a little bit. And then I'm just going to lay this down over the zipper teeth and then just making sure everything is even, that it looks good, that you like it. And then I'm going to flip it up and remove the backing off of the double-sided tape at the bottom of the zipper. And then lay this down real nicely. Make sure you of course, keep your zipper pull out of the way because it will want to stick to that tape. There we go. And then just lay this down nicely, making sure it stays even as well. Sometimes you may have to, still work with it a little bit. My ends always come off a little sideways for some reason. There we go. So making sure it's nice and centered and you like the way it looks, give it a nice press where it sticks, the tape sticks to it. And this is where it comes important to making sure that this window of your interfacing or your stabilizer is centered well, because when you stick this down, because mine is just a tad bit too high on the bottom, it's got a bit of a puff here. So when I stitch on here, I have to be very careful because my foot will want to slip and slide on this. So that's why it's very important. But because I use the sticky interfacing, there's no way I could peel it off rather than waste it. And I don't have any more of this kind of foam interfacing. All right. I'm going to increase my stitch length back to a top stitch. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take this part of your pocket, flip it up out of the way. You're not going to, and oh, by the way, your pocket will be longer. Don't trim it yet. You're going to flip this out of the way, and then you're going to stitch at the bottom here first. And then once you get it all, the zipper completely sewn in, then you'll do the trimming. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start approximately 1 stitch length before the little rectangle window, and we're only going to stitch at the bottom and then go approximately 1 stitch past on the other end. So we're going to start 1 and then stop at 1 stitch about roughly, making sure that your top of your lining is out of the way. So you should be like this when you do the stitching. This is the bottom. This is what we're going to stitch on right now. And this is the top that's going to go down like this. Okay. So let's flip it to the right direction, making sure, and I'm going to grab my threads. Now here you want to pull your threads through so it looks nice and complete where you don't see back stitching. So pull your threads long and hold on to your threads when you do this, so that way one of your threads doesn't slip. And you're going to top stitch, which is about 1/8 of an inch of your away from the raw edge of your window. So I'm going to grab my threads. I'm going to hold on to them. I'm going to try to hold on to them. There we go. And then start your stitching. Again, don't back stitch. Just go start your stitching. Of course, as needed, make sure your zipper pull stays out of the way. And then when you get to the other side, when you cut your threads off, make sure they're long as well, because you will be pulling those threads through as well when you get to the end. I'm just going to go just a little bit here. I don't want to go a whole stitch because it'll be way too far past. There we go. Okay, so I want to pull my threads out. Make sure they're nice and long so I can snip them, pull them through. And then I'm just going to flip it and then pull my threads through and tie them off. Basically, you just grab your back thread, give it a little bit of a yank, and then you'll see a loop, and then grab that loop and pull it through. Okay, and then you just tie them. And then if you're using the appropriate thread, the polyester blended thread, you can just run your lighter over it, and it'll just melt the edges, and it'll give it a nice stopped, it'll be like a little plastic melt, so it'll be it won't pull, it should not pull through. But I always do 3 knots, and I lost count, so I'm going to do one more just in case. That was it. Okay. All right. So that's all we should have right now. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take this piece, lay it down over top, and then you're going to start stitching right where you start. You're going to start stitching in that hole there, go up all the way over and back down, and then you're going to stop in that hole there. Again, make your threads long, because you're going to do the exact same thing. So we're going to go ahead and fast forward through this portion, and then I'll be back once I have my threads pulled through and tied off. Alrighty, there we go. So that's what our back zipper pocket looks like, with a nice little window there. And then, so this is what the back will look like once you're finished. It kind of looks like it didn't finish, but remember our bottom is stitched on here. So then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and clean up the bottom edge of your lining. Just match them up. Pay no mind to my squeaking scissors, please. They do need oiled. And actually sharpened as well, but anyway. All right. That's usually about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, maybe. All right, so that's nice and lined up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sew our zipper pocket shut. So basically you just take this, your piece here, fold back up at the side, and then you're just going to fold this back, and then you're just going to stitch along the side here to sew up this pocket. You're going to just go down, around, and all the way back to the other side. And that is our zipper pocket. Ta-da! Isn't that cute? And this would be a great pocket, especially if you're using this wristlet as like a wallet coin. I mean, you get a lot of coins in that pocket, right? All right, so there's your slip pocket. Now, once our zipper pocket, so once you get all of that done, uh-oh, I got my papers out of sort. Don't know how I did that. We are going to sew up our strap connector. There we go. I found my place. Okay. Somehow my papers got out of sort, and I'm not sure how I did that. Okay. So, let's go ahead and do our strap connector. I kind of missed that part in the beginning. So your strap connector, you're going to mark the centers of it, and then put a piece of double-sided tape in the center. I'm just using a 1/2 inch piece of double-sided tape. Fold to the center. You'll fold to the line, and then fold the other side up to the other line where these are touching. So you want them to touch. And then you're just going to top stitch each side of the folded edge. 1/8 of an inch at your top stitch length. That just gives it a finished look for your D-ring. I'm just cleaning up my threads here, making sure we don't have long threads that's going to peek through the bag when I sew this onto the bag. So there is your D-ring connector holder. So I'm going to grab my D-ring, put this through the D-ring like that. Match your raw edges together. And just make sure it fits nicely. I'm just making sure it fits nice and tight. I like my D-ring to be a little tight so it doesn't flop around. All right, now we're just going to baste shut the raw edges of the D-ring connector. That helps it when you put it onto your bag. It's not open, and it kind of it's hard to control. To me, it's harder to control when these edges are open. When you're trying to stitch it and this is not together. So your D-ring connector right now is ready. You're going to set that aside. You'll need that at the very end. All right, now you're going to grab your main zipper. Let me real quick clean up my zipper on the back here so it doesn't interfere with my finished product here. And if you ever have to cut into your zipper tape at all, make sure you singe it with the lighter. Again, I just cut mine just a little long, but I like to have it just a little long. Oops. There we go. All right. Sorry, I just happened to notice that that needed to be cleaned up. Okay, so you're going to get your zipper tab end pieces, and then you're going to get your main zipper tape. Let me get the correct length of that. All right. And this is where you do want to make sure your zipper length is accurate, because you're going to put end tabs on your zipper. Okay. And then you will want to install your zipper pull right away once you get that done, because you are going to again put end tabs on here. So obviously once you sew your end tabs on, you won't be able to put your zipper pull on unless you unstitch it. Trust me, I've done it before many a time on other projects if I'm not paying attention. All right, then I got this really cute, actually I got this zipper pull, let me hold it still, from Wawak. It says handmade on it. It's really cute. You can get them from other places. I just happen to get this particular one from Wawak. All right, your zipper end tab, the short edge, match it up to the end of your zipper tape. I'm gonna throw a little clip there just to hold it still. And then you're gonna stitch this on at the seam allowance that she tells you. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut away just a little tiny bit of the vinyl. Do not cut the zipper tape, just the vinyl. And I'm only going to cut probably like 1/8 of an inch off of it, just to help with some of the bulk. And then I'm going to take my zipper tab, I'm going to fold it out so it's like that, and then I'm going to top stitch right here on top of the vinyl. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. All right, so my zipper is now ready. That's what your zipper should look like. And this is your main zipper here, okay? Now, what you're going to do, once you get your main zipper completed, you're going to start the assembly of your bag. So I'm going to grab my front. Let's see. That's the back. I'm going to grab my lining piece with the slip pocket because I want this to be in the front of my bag. Of course, that's your choice, however you want. If you want your card slots to be in the front, you can do, you can flip it. But I want my slip pocket to be in the front, so I'm going to grab my main panel here. I'm going to mark my centers of the main panel, which I have not done yet. First, I'm going to remove some bulk off of here. I'm just going to trim these little pieces here a little bit, just at an angle, just to remove some bulk right here. Okay, now let's find our centers. Sorry, I just happened to look in that scene. Because this was at an angle, it kind of peeked through a little bit. So we're just going to fix that. All right. And just as a reminder, I know I've already mentioned this, but I just thought I'd remind you, this Alice wristlet is a companion wristlet to go with the new Alice shoulder bag. As of the recording of this video, it's in testing. And my Alice wristlets that I have made are made to match the Alice shoulder bags. So this color combination will be in a full shoulder bag. Depending on how I make it up, it might not be, a big tan or, minor. It depends on how I want the bag to look when it's completed. But yes, this will be, this color combination, these specific vinyls will be in the main bag, depending on how I want it to look when it's completed. So anyway, so I like my zipper when it's closed, to be closed on the left side, open to the right side. And that's going to be the same if you want to be consistent with your back zipper pocket. Make sure that, you can put these pieces together like that. Actually, I think I want to go this direction. Yeah, open it. So I want my zippers to match. So I'm going to turn it to the right direction. I'm just putting them like this so that way I know where I want my zipper to close. So I want it to be closed the same direction as this. So I'm going to go this direction. All right. I'm going to find the center of my zipper tape, which of course my zipper pull just happened to be at the center. So let's move that a little bit. And I'm just going to put a little line, a little tiny mark to mark the center. I mean, it's going to be out of the seam allowances. Like that. It's just a tiny little, I think you can see it. All right. And I'm going to put some double-sided tape on my vinyl. It's easier just to place it on your vinyl when you do it this way. And I'm going to go all the way across. I'm going to go ahead and do it to my, all the remaining pieces. So I'm putting tape across my exterior pieces as well as the top, on the top of my lining pieces. All right. So I'm getting, again, there's my back. This is my front, my lining. I'm grabbing the lining piece, my front piece, and then my zipper tape. So again, keeping in mind the position of my zipper pull, I'm going to remove the backing off my double-sided tape, and then I'm going to use that little center point that I marked on my zipper, line it up to the center of my bag, and then go out and place my zipper. Now, you've got two options here as far as how you do the zipper tape and attach your lining. You can use clips. I prefer tape, honestly. To me, it makes it easier to do a zipper. And then also, if you don't use tape, I highly suggest you baste your zipper onto your main exterior prior to putting on your lining. That will secure your tape, and it will help your zipper tape, and it will help when you do your lining piece, because if you're doing just clips, there's a real high probability that this will slip. However, since I am using tape on both pieces, I do not need to baste first. I will just go ahead and put my lining directly on and make that good old zipper sandwich. And I'm just lining it up from the center out as well, because I already have the centers marked. So there you go. So there's my zipper right there. Got my lining and my exterior, and then I'm going to sew this on at the seam allowance that she gives you. So if you do it the other way where you baste it, you just want to use 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch to baste it on. Do not go over 1/4 of an inch. But I'm going straight on to at the full seam allowance. Where's my zipper pull? There it is. Okay. And of course, you will probably have to move your zipper pull back and forth as you do this to make sure you don't hit that, and then you get a big old bump in your zipper tape installation. Okay. And your tabs may be longer than your piece. You don't need to trim them off yet until you get all it together before you do the final attach sewing together. Then you can clean off those tabs. But I leave mine long until I'm ready to sew it all up. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you're going to take your lining, pull it out of the way, fold your exterior piece down away from the zipper like this. So you'll have your zipper point. Let me close up my zipper. You're going to have your lining up and your zipper tape up this way. Take your lining, fold it down, and then you're going to top stitch across the whole thing with all of this piece, all of this up in the air, or up away from your lining or your exterior. Wow, sorry about that. All right, let me get my stitch length increased. We're only top stitching the exterior portion of the bag. Okay, so this is what it should look like right now with your top stitching and then your pieces out of the way like that. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to take your lining, just kind of fold it back out of the way, and then you're going to do the exact same thing to your exterior. Okay, attach them together if you want to do it. Do the, you know, do the double-sided tape. You can put it all together, or baste it first and then baste the exterior and then add your lining. But we're going to go ahead and do this, and I'm just going to do this in the fast forward motion since we just did the thing. And then I'm also going to top stitch the exterior as well. So once all that's completed, I'll be back to show you how we do the box up, how we sew it up and prep it to sew it up and then get it completed. So I'll be right back. All right, so now we are got it all top stitched. Again, my lining is not top stitched in with my exterior. All right, so I had to reset my machine. For some reason, my needle positioner timing got off, and I about put a needle through my finger. So I need to keep what fingers I have. I've already cut one. Okay. So I'm just kind of pressing the lining back a little bit because since it's not top stitched, I'm just going to give it a nice press so it'll be out of the way once it's completed. All right, so now that you've got that done, this is what it should look like. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take your exterior, put them right sides together. Make sure you match up the centers. And then you're going to go ahead and clip around the exterior. Now I'm going to put my connector on here once I get it clipped. That way it's everything's in position before I slip that connector in to add it so it's in here. I think it's easier just to make sure it's all stabilized before I slip that in. I'm going to go ahead and clip my lining. Now you're going to leave your lining open at the bottom because that's where you're going to pull it through. Now, lesson learned from the one that I did the crystal design. Make sure you leave it wide enough to where you can pull it through. If you put it too narrow, you will have a really hard time pulling it through, especially if you use a more thicker or stiffer vinyl. It can take you a minute, and you don't want to spend forever trying to pull a bag through like that. That's not especially something like a small wristlet. Okay, so that's what we got. It's all clipped together like this. Lining's right side together, exterior's right side together. It's kind of like a little butterfly effect going here. And then I'm going to grab my connector piece, and I'm going to figure out, I got to look through to see where my zipper pull is going to end at, because that's where I like to place my connector. So my zipper pull, when it's closed, it's going to be on this side. So I'm going to go inside right here where on the exterior part, I'm going to take my clip and move it. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to slip it in like this where the raw edge is out, matching with the raw edges of my bag. So I'm going to take it and slip it in. And I'm going to just put it, like, center it with that stitch here where I did the little top band. I'm just going to center it right there. I am going to stick this out about 1/8 of an inch. It's just going to stick out 1/8 of an inch. And that's just to help secure it from wanting to pull through on the stitches. So there's 1/8 of an inch. It's wanting to sneak in. So let me give it a clip to hold it still. I think I'm going to have to grab a plastic clip that's bigger and wider. Not like that. Okay. So keep in mind, I'm going to leave about enough space. Let me get a little pin that's be all right. That won't show through on this vinyl or this lining. I'm going to actually start roughly 2 inches in. That'll give me plenty of turn space and also a way when I do my box my corners, because you will be boxing your corners. So I'm just going to go in roughly 2 inches, and I'm going to mark it just so I have an eyeball of it. All right. And I think that is the right. Oh, there we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this. There. Making sure I am. There we go. My clips just happen to be at the 2-inch mark, of course. And then this needs to be at the seam allowance. So I'm going to go ahead and mark my seam allowance so I know where to start and stop. All right. So there's that. And this is where I'm this space here is going to be left open. So I'm going to start here. Now I like to start down here, go up and then over, and then it's kind of boxed a little bit, or got little 90-degree turns. I like that method. So that way when I fold this in, it's really easy to just fold it in and then stitch it once it's completed. And then you're going to start here and go all the way around, back around, and then stop where I have it marked here, and then go in and then back stitch it, and again leaving this open. We're going to go all the way around. You do a higher seam allowance on your lining than you do on your exterior. So pay attention to what she has listed in her pattern of the seam allowance that you're going to use. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch all the way around. I am going to back stitch here where my turn space is, so that way it gives it plenty of strength for when I turn it through. I'm going to turn it and then stitch this. Again, this is a higher seam allowance. Now, you will notice, and I thought I did this wrong when I did the first one, these little corners that you have cut out, your stitching will meet up with that corner. It is not wrong when you get to the other side that it's going to match up with these little corners. That is correct. I just thought I'd mention that because I thought I did it wrong when I did the first one. Be careful when you go over your card slots. That's some extra thickness. And then when you get up towards the top, you're going to then make if you're starting on the lining like this, then when you get to the top or you get to your exterior, you're just going to veer off a little bit and then go to your normal seam allowance. By the time you get to the exterior, you should be at your normal seam allowance. Again, you will cut, your seam allowance is where your little boxes are cut out at. All the way around. Now I'm to the connector where the D-ring is at, so be careful when you get to this because it will be some bulk, especially since it's vinyl. So I'm just paying close attention to make sure that my machine doesn't bump it, my presser foot. So I'm going to just grab a little piece of scrap vinyl. That way my presser foot's already up in the air a little bit, so it doesn't bump my connector. And I'm just making sure my seam allowance stays the same. I needed to trim my little tabs off, like I said we should have, right? That's not done yet. So now as I work towards the side of the bag or to the lining, I'm going to start to increase my seam allowance. So when I get to the lining, I'm at the seam allowance that she suggests you be at. And this does help make the lining lay so much nicer inside your bag. Because I don't like a lining that doesn't lay nice and flat. It's always nice to have one that lays flat. All right. Almost there. And then we're going to turn it and do this last bit here. I'm going to turn it and I'm going to just do my 90-degree turn and go off, back stitching, like that. So again, you've got that opening here. You've got your stitching. See how the stitching matches? That is what you want it to look like that. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to box our corners, and I am going to make the marks. She gives you the measurements of what the corner should be boxed at. I'm going to make lines, so that'll help me better when I do it. So I'm just going to go ahead and make the marks for my corners, knowing where to box them. And I'm just using that corner of where that we cut out. So it's going to be the measurement from where that little corner is, and you're just measuring it out to that. Let's see. I got to think one. Okay. And two. There we go. Because you're going to make sure when you do the exterior, it's going to be the seam allowance of the box is going to be the seam allowance that you use in your exterior. So it will be a little different. So you just have to make sure that you make sure you do that box the right box, or it won't look right when you box them. All right. So now I'm just going to go ahead, open up my seam allowances and box the corners. Just going to have to reach in and do that. Like that. Putting up the seams. And then I'm just going to put a clip just to hold it. Like I say, I've got the little line on one side. You can't see it because of the way it drew, but that I can see it here on the side. So I'm just going to stitch it at that line. I had to turn it this way so I can see it better. There we go. And I'm going to box my corner. And I'll do this for all 4 corners. So I'll be right back once my corners are boxed. And then once I box the corners, I'm going to trim my seam allowances down to about 1/4 of an inch away from my stitching edge on all around the bag. So once then when all that is completed, then I'll be back. We'll fast forward through all of this. Oh no. All right, so I've got my seam allowances all trimmed down, so it's nice and narrow, so that way it doesn't add bulk. So now I'm going to turn the bag right side out. One thing I should have mentioned, I didn't mention, when you start, I don't remember if I mentioned, honestly, when you do all of this and you kind of butterfly it out and put all your right sides together, make sure your zipper in here in your main piece of your bag, make sure that zipper's open, or you'll have to try to pull it through with your zipper closed, and you have to open your zipper up. I just realized I did not put my interfacing on this piece. I can still do it. I will just need to trim it down a little bit, which is not a problem. It just hit me that my interfacing was not on. But since I need to account for my seam allowances, I will trim it out. Not a big deal. Look at that. Crisis averted. I got it on. Looks good. It's in the film of my seams. All right, now let's turn this. I realized it wasn't on when I went to reach in and grabbed my exterior, that it was way too soft for me to pull it. And I knew something didn't feel right. That's how I realized. I mean, I looked right at it, but it just didn't hit me that my interfacing wasn't on. So let's turn this right side out now. It's still a small hole, but we should be able to get this. If you have struggles, you can always heat it up with a hairdryer. That softens the vinyl. It should be all right. All right, so now once you get it turned right side out, isn't that cute? That's the back, and there's the front. I got to finish poking my corners out a little bit better than that, but make sure you push your lining in. Make sure it looks good before you sew it up. If you have to take like a little bit off the bottom, off this bottom here, you should be able to do it at this time, but I'm going to push this in, the lining in. Make sure it fits nicely. Okay. Looks like it'll be a nice fit. All right, looks good to me. Now we're going to just pull it out. And then I'm going to sew the bottom shut. Basically, I'm just going to take it, poke out these little corners here, so I can get a nice tight shut like that. And then I'm just going to grab where the opening's at. I'm just going to take it and then just kind of do that where it folds in. And then I'm just going to clip it, and then I'm going to top stitch. I'm going to go as close to the edge of this as I possibly can. I'm not even going to go a 1/16 of an inch. I mean, it's going to be really, really close, because I like it when it's barely noticeable, that there's a little point there. So I'm going to stitch this shut. I'm going to start just past where the opening is, kind of come in at it just a slight little angle. I'm going to take a stitch, and I'm going to back stitch off. There we go. Now, yeah, that's nice. That's very, very small. You just got to keep checking it to make sure you don't go off and that you're catching all layers here. I'm going to clean it up, and then I am just going to singe the end so I don't have any crazy pieces of thread sticking up. And then you're going to push your lining down. And ta-da! Ta-da! This bonded poly can be a little thick. And wrestle it in there. There we go. I just have to get that initial. Got it. You just punch your corners out, make sure it's nice and fitted. And I use my fist to kind of, more or less, kind of iron it down a little bit with my fist. Press it out, make sure it's smooth at the bottom. There we go. Looks nice, you can't even tell. So there you go. I'll clean, oh, let me clean that edge up real quick. I'm just using my flathead screwdriver to push that edge out to make it look a little nicer, like that. Just be very careful, of course, when you do this. Sometimes my screwdriver has gone through it, like between the gaps here. So just be careful when you do this. There we go. Give it a nice little press with your hands. There you go. That's the back. And there's the front. Isn't that cute? Now, it would be cute if you did like, you could put like a little label or something really cute on the front. But that's the front of it. And that's adorable. And then there's the inside. You got your card slots there. Then you got your slip pocket there, great for bills. You've got it nice and open. And if you want to, I've tested my cell phone. My cell phone is the largest iPhone, plus I have a rubber casing around it. So it adds about 1/4 of an inch overall to the size of the phone. Maybe a 1/2 inch overall to the size of the phone. It fits in here. I can get my iPhone in here. So if you just want to grab it and go, you got your wrist strap. You can pull it out of your new Alice bag that's going to come out in a couple weeks. And boom, you're good to go. Isn't this adorable? I love it. Again, the Alice wristlet. It comes in the classic design or the crystal design. This is what I did my live on. They're so cute. They're great. Little wristlets. Even if you don't do the Alice shoulder bag, you've got it's a great wristlet. Just standalone little pouch. Again, for the first week of the release, from February the 23rd through Monday the March, or maybe it's, I'm not sure what that date is, but it's 1 week from February 23rd. Go to her Facebook page, Bloom and Needle Sewing Circle. And you can download this pattern for free, again, for just the first week. And then look for the release of her Alice shoulder bag coming soon. And it is a companion to these wristlets. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. If you are not a subscriber, I would appreciate if you become a subscriber. And also give me a thumbs up. I would appreciate that as well. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your time. Bye.